Hi, welcome to episode 2, the Prismwing Chroma-flute. Welcome to the Magical Musical Orchestra, a musical world where music and magic intertwine. The wind lulls wild creatures to sleep, the stars sing lullabies, and otherworldly people create instruments that, when played, bring this world to life. Here, music is not just a source of entertainment, but a powerful force that can alter the world. The musicians play melodies that can heal wounds, calm storms, grow lush landscapes, summon animals, conjure gentle rain. Yet, these musicians can also evoke fear, ward off threats, and protect the realm from darkness. Let's begin a journey through this fantastical land where the magical musical orchestra weave dreams, paint beauty, and summon power to fill every corner of the world. The best place to start? Your sketchbook. So on this nice colourful pre-blominated page from the last Magical Musician colour palette, I did a few little sketches. I brainstormed a couple of ideas of how I wanted the Prismwing Chroma-flute to look in my sketchbook, and then I moved over to my iPad just to speed up the process of the whole thing, and I did a nice little sketch of what I want the instrument to look at, and then around that I sketched what I wanted my character to be doing. So I really love playing with good rhythm and flow in my illustrations. I really love nice balance. I like balance of shapes. I love balance of lines. I love like directional balance. I really want your eye to be kind of like taken for a ride when you're looking at my illustration. So I had fun like figuring out which body position I wanted my character to be in, and I settled on this one. And then what I did was I made it really light purple, set the opacities down to like 16% or something, and printed my sketch out onto my watercolor paper using a 350 GSM cotton paper on Fabriano, I think, pretty sure. And then I grabbed out a bunch of inks that I thought would suit the color palette of a character like this. I'm thinking they're really airy and floaty. They play the flute, so everything is light and lovely and magical. So I wanted to go for like pinks and blues and ethereal kind of colors. I show you a couple of like little close-ups of brands here. I use all sorts of brands with my ink. I've been collecting ink since forever, so I have all types of ink here. So you can see me right now using my Lousy ink, which is made here in Melbourne. I've been using Diam, Eco Lines, all sorts of different inks. So I really like the water-based inks that are really see-through, as opposed to the acrylic inks. I find acrylic inks to be a little bit more gluggy and they kind of take over, but they're nice for pops of color. Like I use the hot pink a lot for a big pop of pink color, which is, I don't know, it feels like it's just really nice. But overall I like to use really quite watery, light inks. So I start my illustration off with a really light base layer, kind of throwing down all sorts of different colors, keeping a lot of water on my brush so that everything kind of like bleeds and melds into each other. I love this part. This is one of my favorite parts of the illustration. You kind of have to work quick because I don't want it to sort of dry on the edges, and then I get these like edges when I'm trying to paint over it and stuff like that. I try to do it quite quickly so that all the ink blends into each other, so it just looks like one big, almost like tie-dye look about it. And yeah, I just throw a bunch of colors around. It's really fun, and I like to let ink be ink. And you can see here right where like her thighs reach her lower back, how the ink is like stretching up, the pink ink. It's really exciting. I love when that happens. And with ink, there's a lot of waiting, there's a lot of letting it dry before you go to the next layer. And I think I mentioned this in the last video. There's just a lot of layering. You got to build up layers, and ink starts light to dark. And that also means more water versus less water. So the lighter layers are very watered down, and I put them down first. And I'm sort of planning out that as I go as well. you know, you can see that I did plan the illustration itself, but I didn't necessarily plan how I wanted the colors to look. I sort of did those a little bit more with intuition, I suppose. As I went into it and I laid down my base, I would see what kind of things happen, how the ink spreads itself around, and then I kind of work to that. So I really like that sense of not really knowing what's going to happen and just like going with the flow of it. Bob Ross had a quote that was something like happy little accidents, and I love that because it feels like all these special little moments that happen come from happy little accidents and stuff that you can't necessarily plan or your brain can't necessarily comprehend until it starts happening. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about ink. It's that happens a lot. Happy accidents happen a lot. And I really love problem solving when something weird happens, when ink isn't layering well, or if there's some like bleedy bits that happen, like maybe the paper doesn't hold it in a certain way and some inks bleed more than other inks. When that sort of thing happens, trying to figure out how to fix it, how to turn that problem into like a superpower, you know, how to turn that problem into something that really works for the piece. I really love doing that sort of thing. Now let me tell you a little bit about the Prismwing Chroma-flute. I'm going to tell you the materials first. So the flute is made up of prismatic feathers, a rainbow quartz, some color weaved threads, harmonic droplets, and some gemstones. The sound of the Prismwing Chroma-flute is a synaesthetic experience, as the music produced would not only be heard but it would also be seen and felt. Each note would correspond to a different colour or combination of colours that dance and swirl in the air around the musician, enveloping them in a living rainbow. The music has the power to paint the skies with impossible colours and to weave entire landscapes of light and sound that shift and change with the flow of the melody. The iridescent feathers give the flute a soft melodic tone, while the embedded rainbow quartz adds crystalline notes that seem to sparkle in the air. The harmonic droplets add a layer of resonance, vibrating in frequencies both familiar and unknown, touching emotions and sensations beyond ordinary perception. And that is my magical musical instrument and musician for today. I hope you like it. This was number 2 of 12, and I'll see you next time. Toodaloo!